after the war in Ukraine began, prices soared in the first half of last year to close to 27 Rand per litre. They finally started coming down towards the end of last year, and with another decrease, prices will move from above 22 Rand or so to 20.45 per litre for 95 unleaded and 20.75 for 95, the earlier price for 93 rather, and that's at the coast. Now, inland, where prices are higher due to transport costs, they will fall from above 23 Rand to 21 Rand 10 for 93 unleaded and 21 Rand 40 for 95 unleaded. To discuss, we're joined by People Against Petrol and Paraffin price increases. The national convener is Visvin Reddy. Mr. Reddy, thank you for being with us. So more than 2 Rand, would you call that significant relief?
It's significant indeed, and as Papi, we welcome this decrease, this cut in fuel prices. However, we believe that it will make no significant impact on South Africans in general. If you take motorists on a tank of 45 litres, you'd be saving around 90 rands every time you fill the tank. But you are paying way more in electricity, food costs, your other costs that have gone up every time fuel prices went up. Remember, the price of petrol is still over 20 rands a litre. Secondly, the ordinary South African, and they are in the majority, millions of South Africans, will see no impact unless whatever went up when the fuel prices went up also comes down now that fuel prices are coming down. And the bottom line is that the ones that's going to ensure that this happens will be government. Government needs to monitor and ensure that businesses, including the taxi associations and other organizations that are impacted by high fuel prices, that they will start to reduce the prices so that South Africans can benefit. In South Africa, we are in a unique situation in that our fuel can cost less than 10 rands a litre. We have been saying this for several years. We are a fuel producing nation, and you cannot compare South African fuel prices with other non-fuel producing countries around the world.
You mean you're talking about Sasol? If there was regulation, government could say Sasol has to offer its prices at a lower rate in South Africa. It doesn't have to benchmark against global prices.
Absolutely correct. I mean, Sasol is produced locally using coal technology. It's not affected by the foreign exchange rates. It's not affected by the price of crude oil. So why is it that the government is so hesitant to nationalize Sasol and reduce the price of petrol to less than 10 rands a litre? Secondly, our fuel taxes and levies are the highest on the continent. And I am surprised to hear that the department is saying that they've lowered fuel levies. This is, I would say, a big lie, because I need to see it on paper where they are reducing levies. The bottom line is that in South Africa, we are still paying far too much for petrol. And remember, high petrol costs affects everybody in some way or the other. And we will be monitoring this very closely. And in the coming months, we want to ensure that government goes back to the drawing board and puts Sasol back on the table for discussion.
All right.
At the moment,
I mean, essentially, we should see the whole chain being affected, because we saw it was affected, like you say, food prices went up. A lot of food is transported on road in South Africa. Unfortunately, it shouldn't be. But like you say, it's hard to get those prices to come down. Do consumers have a role to play there?
Yes, they do. You know, whenever fuel prices goes up, within a week of the prices going up, you will find everything is going up. Am I right? Your bus fares, taxi fares, food costs, everything goes up. Your air tickets and the works. But when the petrol price comes down, do you see the resultant effect in prices across the board? You don't. So the only people are our politicians who are sitting in parliament. And as citizens, we need to hold them accountable and ensure that fuel prices are high up on their agenda. we are in a very interesting time right now in that there's a looming election. And I love election time because it's this time that every South African citizen can start to make its demands and its expectations on our elected representatives. So it's a wonderful time for us to start engaging. And that is the reason why People Against Petrol Price Increases will be beginning widespread awareness programs, protests, engagement with government and political parties to ensure that fuel prices is put high up on their agenda.
All right, I know you focus on petrol and paraffin, but at least diesel is coming down this time around. It's been going up even when the petrol price started coming down at the end of last year. That's huge for farmers. It also affects food, it affects Eskom, and Eskom demand plays into that. Is that something very substantial this time as well?
You know, it's very substantial, but it becomes meaningless if the resultant decreases is not passed on. I mentioned electricity because our electricity costs, one of the biggest cost drivers has been the cost of diesel. And now that diesel has come down, I would like to see Eskom reducing the price of electricity. That would make a lot of sense. In the same way, trucking companies that transport goods, they've increased the cost of road transport because of the increased diesel costs. Now that diesel prices have come down, surely they should now pass on the savings so that consumers can benefit.
Tell us about paraffin prices. Paraffin is still widely used, but it is a fire danger. Would you say there should be an effort to promote alternatives?
Yes, 100%. It's happening all around the world. Alternative energy, biofuels is something that our government needs to encourage, and they need to introduce legislation that will encourage biofuels in the use of biofuels. I mean, there's been so many incidents, and sadly it affects the poorest of the poor who rely a lot on paraffin. And the cost of paraffin has also escalated to exorbitant levels and making it almost unaffordable. So the first prize would be to make electricity cheaper and available to all South Africans so that the poor are not affected by the dangers associated with paraffin. And secondly, it is to encourage biofuels.
All right, thank you very much. Visvin Reddy is the national convener of People Against Petrol and Paraffin Price Increases.